on. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday night at the Brimfield Matters. And we appreciate everybody persisting and kind of coming in today. And we know it's a little bit after our usual Wednesday, so we appreciate that. And I think that'll be the same thing next week if everybody has that patience to continue. Next Thursday will be a better time as well. So, and then we'll try to get back on track. So we really do appreciate everybody doing that.
Right.
All right. So welcome. Hopefully everybody has had a good week. I'm gonna just play around with this just a little bit more. All right. There we go. All right. So not a whole lot to talk about this week, I don't think. We've got we've got the new agenda that just came out. We've got a couple things that we want to touch on. We want to extend another gratitude, reach out a thanks to Chief from last time, because that was really that was a good session, I thought.
Was that last time?
I think it was last time.
I think it was two times ago. Yeah. Time flies.
It does fly
when Brimfield matters.
It does. It does. So let's see what do you want to talk about? You want to just go over the agenda first? Or do you have some filling in from last week?
So first, I guess we should probably apologize for the tickler that was posted on Facebook saying that we've got all sorts of great information. We do,
sort of,
but we're not good reporters in that, as much as it would be good to break news, we don't want to break news that is going to get someone in trouble or anything else.
Oh, I see. I know where you're going with that.
So there's a couple of big things brewing right now that we'd love to share, but stay tuned for another episode, and we can get into a big discussion of that.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So on that, I think what we can do is we can look at the agenda. I've got the agenda, the whole thing. It just came out hot off the presses.
So
this is an unabridged version of the agenda that should be reasonably close to what's going to be discussed about at the next meeting. And so if we look at the top, we've got the pretty straightforward. Well, they have a lot of minutes to look at. So, and honestly, I didn't look. Is one of those the executive session? The 15th? There's a 13th and a 15th. So I didn't follow up on that because I just noticed it right before we went on the air, just to see if the 15th was that executive session. I think it may have been. What was the date on it?
No, that was the Tri-Town CDBG grant application that they decided not to go after the $650,000.
Oh, yeah. So there should be no minutes. Oh, I see. Because they didn't go to the but they probably got a copy of the minutes that were there.
Right.
Yeah. So that makes sense. That makes good sense, actually. All right. So that.
Yeah. And that's gonna be where just to remind everybody, during that CDBG grant, they had $650,000 in there for Brimfield for the senior center architectural engineering plans, and it was removed. And in the meeting, Sue wanted to make sure that the guy who was helping out from Pioneer Valley said that it was because the other towns didn't want to, and there was another reason. They didn't want to include that.
Right. And
there was another reason. And, the critical word there that the representative from Pioneer Valley said, which, says a lot, knowing the backstory, was that he said some of the factors were that the other towns didn't want it in there.
Right.
Talking to the other towns, they weren't, and I believe Mr. Kelly at that time said that the other towns
at their meeting, you mean, right? At our meeting in town. Mm-hmm.
Right. The other towns said that it was a non-starter, and they wouldn't even come to the table.
Right.
If that was still on.
Right.
And what I've heard behind the scenes from friends on the other towns boards was that wasn't the case, and in fact it was that they were upset because they were never invited to the table. So when the town of Brimfield is responsible for the, is a primary signer like it was this year,
Right.
they're supposed to invite all the other towns, and they never did,
Right.
was what I heard from the other towns.
Gotcha.
And then I heard from PVPC that there was an email from the select board saying, the Brimfield select board saying, take out the $650,000 for the senior center.
Gotcha. So those minutes will be the minutes had by the people that were actually at the meeting.
Yes.
That they probably due diligence. They sent it out to everybody that was on the membership agenda, like on the invitation list, I'm sure.
Right.
So, all right. What else? We had the February 27th and March 7th. Those are just regular meetings.
Yeah, the February 13th included the two executive sessions.
But they probably won't be.
Yeah, it
They
doesn't
won't
say
be-
executive session minutes.
Because
So
I think they would have to itemize them as a separate entity for
I would think so.
approval. I would think they would have to do that too. So it should be known that executive session minutes can and should be released as soon as it's possible. As soon as like the referenced material in the meeting is relatively inconsequential to
Right.
new developments. I'll put it that way, something like going that way.
right. So when you've got an executive session about a treasurer collector,
Right.
and then the treasurer collector resigns,
Right. That probably would indicate that you could release those. I would think.
I would agree.
Because there's nothing to gain. There's nothing to gain by holding them back. So
Right.
we should see them on one of the forthcoming, if not on a revision for this one even. That would be a good revision to allow those minutes to be released
Right.
In a timely manner so people can understand kind of what happened in that discussion. I think that'd be a good idea. All right. No appointments, no resignations to authorize, I guess. Let me put that back up there. All right. We've got a Chapter 90 project up on, so it's on Jane Hill Road. So that is basically, we've talked about Chapter 90s before, but that's highway using money that is kind of given by the state into
Right.
for infrastructure, basically. So that's pretty much a no-brainer if highway thinks it needs to be done for runoff or whatever reason for development. It is what it is. Nothing to really comment on it. I don't
now Jane Hill, for those that don't know, which included some former select board
I have
members.
to say, I don't know all the smaller hills, apparently.
Jane Hill is off of Allen Hill Road down by the Sturbridge line, and it was an old road back 1800s, and the town, and I forget what they call it, decommissioned. It's not decommissioned.
I just had it. It literally just slipped off my tongue. It's abandoned. No,
abandoned.
Is it abandoned?
Yeah, they
okay,
abandoned half of the road.
Gotcha.
And the other half was kept on the books, but it wasn't. Sorry.
Bad signal. I gotta go.
Yeah. Shoot.
It's
So yeah,
that road is
they
gonna
didn't.
develop.
It
Not all
was
the
never
roads.
developed on.
Yeah.
So the road was never really kept up, and now there is a developer who wants to put a couple of houses up there. So the town is obligated to make it right.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that. I don't know how that really works, to be honest, because I know that there are lots of old abandoned roads, and I'm not sure the town needs to make them right.
No,
But person needs to make them right, and the town needs to make sure that it's.
well, the abandoned road, the town has no authority over. But only half
The
of
attached-
James Hill was abandoned. The other
Gotcha.
half just was never maintained, but it was still
So
on the
it
books. as
went
a
up to
town
a point
road.
and then stopped, and now they gotta at least fix it up to that point.
Yeah.
All right.
They'll do a roundabout, or not a roundabout, but a turnaround.
Yep. All right.
Cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac. Oh, very nice. All right. So that's that. I think that's that. If anybody has any information around, we could always
Yeah.
get it to us, and we'll post it. We've got the Chamber of Commerce Central Mass requesting information
And collect.
Oh, that's for the booth for the fair, right? For the flea
Right.
market, and that's pretty standard. I think they've requested that every year,
Right.
And it's just a good publicity situation, I think, for Sturbridge and this whole area really.
Yeah, and they do. They put out a map and a guide of the show, and very friendly to the anybody who's new to the show. You should definitely stop there.
Yeah, absolutely. Choosing the annual report cover photo, that's something that gets done. I mean, a lot of times people will know people that have had some really nice pictures in town, and the select board gets at least some say in it, and just kind of looking at the pictures and just saying, yeah, this one's appropriate, and it makes the cover.
I should have submitted that one with the bald eagle flying over Steerage Rock.
Yeah, right. You should have. I don't think it would have gotten. It would not have gotten in the top 3 considerations, but it was a good picture. Don't get me wrong.
Hey,
very good.
I'm quite the photographer,
Yeah, it's good that you have something to fall back on. Choosing the annual report. So I did that. Broomfield IT management. All right, this is going to be an interesting one. Yeah.
If they discuss it.
I don't know what this is about. So I guess we can give a little bit of history. We've always used Tantasco IT for as long as had been on the board as a support. They've been really instrumental in getting us to where we are now with the servers and with the firewalls and safety and whatnot. They've done a lot of work through grants and through a lot of just honestly uncompensated hours, man hours, person hours. We've always, not always, Mr. Burke, Pat Burke has offered in the past to have some IT support. When I was chair, there was a problem with the number of, I can't get into my email, I lock myself out, I can't find my password. And honestly, at the time, the IT department at Tantasco they just couldn't drop everything and come over here to get the printer to work with somebody's computer. So we kind of had a little bit of a Band-Aid, I guess, maybe, or a workaround where Mr. Burke actually offered those considerations, or he would kind of come in, I'll walk them through it with the virtual online, getting on the computer and doing it with software. So I know there was a discussion for Mr. Burke to take more responsibility, and that was actually this past spring, right?
Right.
And so, but I don't know where that went. And then there was a situation where they kind of told Tantasco IT to kind of take a flying leap.
Right.
That was certainly the gist of sentiment anyways.
Yeah.
And then I think IT Tantasco bellied back up and said, all right, we'll keep doing it despite being not thrilled. And I don't know really what the situation is right now. I know Tantasco has still got their hand in the mix.
But they're trying to get out.
That was certainly the sentiment that we got months ago. So there was also kind of a movement to try to get more information from a couple of other vendors.
Right.
And I do remember getting that information to try to improve our passwords, improve the firewall, improve switches, improve what's going on at the annex, maybe to get the 28 laptop computers on board. There was a lot, and that just kind of fizzled. And they were really lucky that Tantasco didn't just cut the cord completely.
Oh yeah.
So Tantasco, I know, has still been a facilitator in getting things done. So this could be interesting if they talk about it, or depending on what they present, because they don't really say the offers from vendors or contracts. I mean, I don't know if you have to get that specific in it. So it could be that they're soliciting third-party bids.
And they should be, because it is budget season and they have to budget for IT if it's not going to be free anymore.
This should have been done a long time ago. But to get it to a point where you're not only thinking about it and you have hard numbers, you need to get that done.
Oh yeah,
for sure. But So, yeah,
Yep.
I don't know. All right, let me get on here, and what's the next thing there?
So you got the annual flea market owner operator licenses.
Yeah, pretty
Tomorrow.
straightforward. Grand Trunk, and then looks like Punfield Barn is
Yeah.
on the next one. So let me go down to the next one. Is let's see if I can get to the bottom here. All right, so on the bottom now we've got, I guess it's considered old business. Now, I do remember them saying, we couldn't do old business at one point. I remember them saying that. But anyhow, we have old business, which is good because we need to look at it. And so cancellation of the public safety complex open house. So, was it canceled?
Yes.
It was definitely canceled. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So, once again, this board decides there's supposed to be an open house. Okay, good. Which would have been a great thing to give the old building committee something nice in this town. And at the meeting, the select board decided that yes, you could have it, but no, you can't spend any money.
Right.
So the only way that you would get things out is through
word of mouth, social media, yeah, goodwill kind of thing.
Yeah. And they wanted to change the time, which the morning time was good for everybody on the building committee.
Right.
But without asking anything, they said, we'll approve it in the afternoon when the select board members could go. The same select board that basically spit in the eye of the old building committee. Once again, spitting in the eye of the building committee, the old building committee, the previous building committee, because they didn't even ask if the time was good.
Right.
They just expect everybody to kowtow to them for an event that's not theirs. They weren't even select board members, through the majority of this of the public safety project.
Right.
But this is a board that will, take any win they can, and
it just didn't have. I mean, they should have just let them have their time, let them have the swan song kind of thing, and then drift into the sunset. you know, and it would have been a lot easier with less angst and less of these repercussions, emotional and social repercussions that will undoubtedly rise to the top when this gets. I'm sure there are people that are hot about this.
Oh yeah, and then the final thing that the select board made mention of was that they wanted the new building committee there,
right?
So that there could be some sort of handing of the torch,
right?
Again, a forced handing of the torch. This was to celebrate the old building committee and the success, the great success that they had in completing a project on time, under budget. And now, part of what the select board wants to do is bring in the next version of it that basically took their job.
Right.
And they're supposed to say something nice about, oh, good luck to you.
Yeah,
well, it's not about that.
It's just not a good feeling.
No.
It's just not a good feeling. And this just makes it worse because, I think we know why this ended up being canceled, but a lot of people won't, unless they watch this show.
That's right. That's why you've got to watch
Broomfield Matters. That's why you got to watch
Matters.
this show, and you got to get everybody to watch this show.
That's right. And subscribe.
All right. So we've got, let's see, the next one up. These are just updates, which I think is good to get an update because there are a lot of things that are on the back burner that have been there for a long time that we just don't know what the status is. And I think this will be a good agenda item to maintain.
Oh yeah, every week this should be on.
Yeah, because I do think that this offers some insight. So we have an MVP grant. I don't know what that is about.
That's the grant that we chose not to go after because it put a lot of burden on our already overworked employees, in particular Zach.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is the one that it's great to have, but it basically will give you, it's the
yep.
vulnerability.
Well, yeah, it's the vulnerability and protection or whatever
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, that's right. It was to look at how vulnerable we are to natural disasters and other disasters for that matter. How quick can we roll? How quick can we fix? What things are very, very vulnerable, like drainage, right? I mean, like loose landslide kind of thing, and drainage ditches and culverts, and when you start to inspect culverts that are old, let's just say, or bridges that are old, you end up getting engineers that will tell you that it needs to be done differently.
Right. And the problem with this, once it's in writing,
Right.
you recognize the fact that it is an issue.
Right.
Zach is working every day with every issue, and he triages everything.
Right.
It's a technical vet term.
Triage. Good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saw it on MASH
Yeah.
way back in the day. Yeah.
So, veterinarian, that was not.
Yep. No, I hear you.
Okay.
I got you.
So, and he's working on the worst culverts and the worst. He actually went to
Right.
FinCom and wanted a budget for culvert and bridge maintenance, so that he could have that specially, But you put it in writing, and you recognize that these 5 culverts are dangerous,
Yeah.
and 3 of them fail and 1 of them causes an accident.
Yeah.
The town is liable potentially because it's written.
Yeah, and just because you have this grant's what, $27,000. The reality is, it's going to cost 10 times that much to do any of these major repairs,
Right.
to redo a road. I mean, like when you guys see them out, see DPW like surfacing, filling potholes and whatnot. That's not the same as rebuilding a
Right.
road. Taking down the tarmac and taking down the substrate and then re-engineering the whole thing. It's night and day, and the expense is also night and day. Right. So when we saw it a few years ago, it sounded great. You get this grant, we figure out what's wrong. That's great. But then, if there wasn't a following grant to fix it, it puts you a little bit. You're vulnerable,
Right.
potentially vulnerable. So we actually talked with town council too, and with Zach about what potentially could happen. And so we elected to kind of back off on it. There's a lot of money now for infrastructure, and maybe
true.
there'll be more money to kind of support it down the road, but it is, everybody knows legislation that comes through doesn't always think 2 steps down the road, and then so there may be something that comes up that does kind of catch you. But I think in the big scheme of things, it's probably a good thing, and it's maybe one of those things that's going to be inevitable now, because you probably won't have insurance if you haven't looked at this vulnerability. So I think it's probably gonna have to happen. I think it'd be nice if they explained it a little bit more, and maybe things have changed a little bit since we were on the board and saw it.
Right.
All right.
So the capital improvement planning grant. This one, I just I look at this as my Massachusetts taxpayer hat.
Yeah.
Saying we have a cap plan.
Yeah.
It's gone well. I don't see how $27,000 is going to, we're going to see that dramatic of an improvement.
Right.
They're going to add more things, but again, Zach, Paul, the maintenance guy,
Chief Contoy,
Chief Contoys,
Chief Bodie, FinCom, they're all all part of this. There is a capital plan, and I think, So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they could use it. I don't know.
And they're going to add the buildings and the roofs and stuff like that.
Right.
The parking lot pavement, which
it'll be good. I guess
everybody knows.
I mean, if it augments it, it makes it better, then maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be more extensive, a little bit more in detail, maybe. And
this is a 5-year, I believe. It was a 5-year plan
I think
versus
it is a 10.
FinCom's 10.
Yeah, I know.
I just find this to be a complete waste of time.
Right. I'm looking for some positives here. See,
you're good.
We said we were going to try to be positive.
We're going to be positive.
There we go.
So the next one is a benchmarking and wage classification. And last time I was totally negative about that.
You were.
I was.
And you're going to continue to be that way.
No, I'm not.
Oh, good, good.
So I wanted to apologize because I did not mention part of it, which was the wage classification system. And
right.
and that if they can implement a wage classification system, that is sorely needed in town. You know,
Right.
one of the big problems is we have a clerk, rate. And so if you put, I'll just say, and she's not at this rate, but Michelle Metcalf, who's been in town for 10 years, plus or
Oh,
minus.
yeah, probably more than that.
Yeah. And she
Yeah,
gets this wage. And if she were to leave tomorrow, the next person would come in at her same wage.
Right.
And that, that does not do justice to Michelle. And all of her work experience and her knowledge and her understanding of the job.
Right.
She should be at the top step. We should bring someone in at a lower step.
Yeah, or commiserate with their level
With
of
their
education,
experience.
experience, and
Yeah.
learning. So you should have a range of bringing somebody into any position. Any
Yeah.
business would have that common sense.
Right.
It is hard with a town because everybody's frugal and it has to pass at town meeting. But I think you need to be realistic.
We need to be there.
You need to be there.
And it needs to happen if for no other purpose than for our employees and just
right.
knowing that that new person with no experience is going to come in at the same rate as I'm making.
Right. Right.
It isn't fair.
Right.
So that's good that they're going forward with that.
Yeah. The more marking, the better. Just the more informative your decision, the more informative what your presentation will be to FinCom, and the more likely you will be able to fill the position because you are competitive. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this one, my critical statement of the night is,
Okay.
I hope it's done soon. And I mean, really, this needs to be the final meeting about it and just the discussion about it.
Just do it.
Because
Right.
we really should be. I mean, hopefully benchmarking will come out and it could be used for the budgeting process, which all budgets are due right around now.
Right.
So we can't wait that much longer. But and part of my critical statements last time with benchmarking was they haven't reached out to any of the departments. And I find it very hard to believe. In fact, I don't believe it at all that the UMass Boston group will be able to know what our town does without talking to our town.
Right. Right. No, they need to be part of it, and they should have sowed that seed a little bit and just say, hey, everybody, start thinking. Give us, what at least come to the table knowing what we're discussing, and then that way it can be a little bit more, hopefully a little bit more constructive rather than just trying to start from scratch.
Right.
So, yeah, it will be interesting to see the results of those benchmark works.
Yep.
All right. Next item is the
The security camera system. Yeah.
Yeah, the next two items have to do with that. So yeah, long time coming. This is up and down where the money's coming from, how important it is, where it's going to go, what company's going to do it. I don't know. Last time I thought they already allocated like 28,000 or.
And I believe that's the town hall and annex security system.
Yeah, that was for the town hall and annex, and
Yeah.
so this one's for the public safety. All right, okay.
Right.
So they got to get that rolling. I mean, it should have been part of the initial project, but
Right.
in my opinion,
So that
needs to get done.
that needs to get done. That's good.
Money, good money.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. The one thing that I see that's missing now is hey,
All right, good.
it's what you had suggested. Somehow that fell off
Oh.
the list.
Yeah.
The school, so that they could actually show their meetings live.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was, and they have it. Well, did I give? I think I gave that to Matt. preliminary grant writing that I wrote up, and then actually, what I did is I put it in as a request to our sitting board to use ARPA funds.
Right.
And we went through and we had the money kind of outlined what it was going to cost to bring the school, and it would benefit a number of things. One is it would improve the infrastructure of telecommunications so that you could have a meeting at the school and it would be broadcast live, it would be recorded, and it wouldn't need a camcorder and a little tripod only. It would be a whole real kind of telecommunications. The other thing it was going to do is it was going to allow the school to work with telecommunications. In my opinion, it would be, sixth graders could easily put on a podcast and have their little news thing, work on current events, work on writing, work on reading, work on presentation, social. I mean, it could absolutely have been a win-win-win-win situation.
Yeah, and if the sixth graders were able to do it, I bet it would be better than this broadcast.
Wow. Maybe we could come in as guests. What not to do.
Yeah.
They're like, we're already doing this. No, but that's what it was going to be for. And that request is still in an email somewhere. They never responded to it. It never got legs, but it never gets said no. But they never came back and said, "Oh, that's a good idea."
It's in there with the fire department UTV.
Right, there you go. Yeah. So maybe we could ask the select board office to resurrect that. And if they're going to put in these security cameras in the complex, maybe they could start thinking a little bit out of the box, pro community. What? How many cliches can we use? To include the school in it, which would then include all the residents in streaming from anywhere down in the safety complex could stream. If they had a safety presentation, if they wanted. Honestly, if they were in the emergency management director could actually get on there and use that as a way to get public information out there. So information to the public. So I just would plead that they just resurrect that request. It was itemized. We worked with IT getting it done. So maybe, just maybe, they could incorporate it at the same time, because it would be a lot more cost effective to do things at the same time. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yep.
All right. The annex, I mean, whatever. I mean, that would... It'd be nice if the building committee 2.0 also kind of knows about this and figures this out and kind of has a little bit of a say in it. We're going to put a lot of money into some building that we still don't know where it's going to go. If it's security reasons, it's security reasons. I'm not going to argue about security, but it is a little bit of putting lipstick on a pig sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yep.
All right. What's the next one?
The public water supply. That will be great to hear an update.
Yeah.
I would like to see more information. I think I'm going to have to file a public records request, because
find out what all
I just want to see what's actually being done.
Yeah.
And
the engineering tests that have been done, the planning. I don't know how much in the way of planning has actually been written down on paper or drawing on a napkin or whatever, but it would be nice to know what they're thinking. And it would be nice to get the input of the building committee with regard to what their projects are. Again, I don't know if they've had a chance to get to a point where they know where the water ought to go, but this should be part of their plan. Or I would think strategy should be part of it.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I would think.
I would think. All right.
Yeah, but I just did a count. If you saw my mind burning, I was trying to count as high as I could, and there are 15 agenda items, sub items or whatever. Mm-hmm. And if the average meeting is 15 minutes long, we're not going to get a whole lot of information on any of these.
That's true. A lot of them will be quick. Yeah, a lot of them will be quick.
It's going on.
All right. Tri-Town Ambulance Service. This is going to be a good update, too, because they had that meeting back September 12th. We haven't really heard an update since then, right? I don't think we have. I'm assuming somebody's been having meetings since then.
September 12th?
So, right? Isn't that when they had?
No, they just had a meeting.
Oh, they just had that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. The first time there was a negotiation. Yeah,
Right.
It was.
Yeah.
It was back then. It's when they started it, right? That was the one that.
No, that it was March 7th. It was the last select board meeting. One of the reasons why it had to be so quick.
That it was right. All right. So the meeting before that was September 12th when they went into negotiation. When they went into
Yes.
the executive, they hadn't had anything on the agenda since then. We'll come back to that. Hang on a second.
Come on.
And then they. Oh yeah, the last regular open session meeting of our board was coincidentally.
It was supposed to be
Yeah. Well.
a joint meeting between the full select boards of Brimfield, Wales, and Holland.
Right, but it was scheduled at the exact same time as their regular meeting, right?
And they did that because it was going to be a joint meeting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But they didn't have. I'll have to go back. They didn't have an agenda.
No.
For that meeting, they did, right?
This board forgot about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so yes, they had to post it, but it should have been posted as like we got to go over to where it was being held and not have their own agenda. And
Right.
they had their own meeting, and because they forgot about the other one.
Right.
So just to kind of so people understand, when you have a tri-town meeting about say something like an ambulance service, all right, which affects the tri-town, so Holland, Wales, and Brimfield, you generally speaking, if you want all the representation that you can from the select boards and other members of the town that have pertinent information, so the safety complex, the chiefs and whatnot, you've got to post it because it's an open meeting violation if you have a quorum of your select board at that meeting without having posted it. So all the towns generally will post it as a meeting. It's a group meeting. It's usually people are invited to whatever town's going to host it, and then you go to that meeting. So that's why it has to be posted as such. Because granted, if you had two people or one person show up, then it's not a meeting technically of the Brimfield, but you still should post it because as many should go as can. But yeah, so what ended up happening? Did they go over to it?
So 2 members did.
2 members did.
Mr. Soto and Mr. Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And they were met by the full boards of the other 2 towns.
Okay.
And as well as the select board, most of the finance committee also went from the other 2 towns. And I think there were quorums for both of them.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, once again,
Yeah, it's just a communication breakdown.
communication
And this is important, people, because this took months to get on its feet.
Years.
Yeah. All right. But it literally took a lot of meetings, a lot of long meetings.
Yeah.
And to go over to get this thing working the way it did. And right now, that's an important segue for the next, I don't know, whatever contract tenure it would be. Was it 3 years? I would hope
3 years,
something
yeah.
like that. So it'll be really interesting to see what comes of this. What the agreements are.
Right. And, from a town standpoint, this is by far the largest budget that the select board oversees.
Right.
The only 2 other items in town that are bigger than the ambulance budget is the
School, which again is a little bit out of our hands, but it's there, and health.
trash.
The Board of Health with the trash collection. That's a big one.
Yeah. So this is the biggest one they have. I think it's even bigger than any of the police.
Total budget.
Yeah.
It's probably.
It's right in there.
It's probably It's got to be comparable. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Per head. I mean, there are formulas. There are formulae that you can use, and that was. I'm sure that's what was being discussed is how they're going to figure this out and make it even. I'll make it fair to the towns, the residents of all 3 towns, and kind of make it right. So yeah, we'll see. That'll be a good update. We need to know what all's going on with that.
Right.
All right. Anything else? I think that was the last one there.
Yeah.
And then flea market, more licenses. So this is old business.
So it's the same licenses in new business and old business. So I think that's,
A misprint.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's just a carryover or something. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know what that's about. But.
So interestingly, missing from this agenda,
Yeah.
there's a couple of glaring omissions.
Yeah, there are a couple. So what we should get as part of the update, I think what we should get an update on things that are updated in the office.
Yeah.
Legal things, things that have been out there for a while that are now starting to get boxed up and filed and whatnot. There have been a couple of open meeting violations, and we know, honestly, nobody likes them. Nobody likes writing them. Nobody likes having to do them. But we definitely have heard a lot about open meeting violations being a waste of time and being wrong and
Cost the town money.
Cost the town money. It's unsupported and whatnot. The I've done two. Admittedly, I've done two, and they were both. I thought I was upset when it happened, and I filed, and they both were found to be open meeting violations. And I think they could give us an update on that. So even though they may say that none of them have been true, and they can have this kind of holier than thou attitude and be a little bit derisive about the quality or the need for these, they were in fact open meeting law violations, and they were supported by the Attorney General, and the Attorney General blatantly said in their reply that there were transgressions. So I think it's important to know that they are. There's not a lot that the Attorney General can do. We're found, that they really can't come in and do anything. Sometimes if it's egregious and they kind of have a repetitive series of transgressions of the same nature, they can potentially fine the town. We don't want that. Obviously, we don't want that. What I would rather have is somebody say, "Oh, I didn't know that. I want to make this better," and say, "Okay, we apologize, and let's just not let that happen again." One of the things was that you kind of alluded to was the ambulance, the executive session that was initiated by the negotiations for the ambulance service, which, since it was not an employee, it was an outside vendor. It should never have been an executive session. So that was a simple one.
And I think if you watch that episode of Brimfield Matters, we say that then.
Yep. And then the other one was Chief Cuss. When Chief Cuss was back in like August of 29, where the discussion that was on the agenda, the item that was on the agenda was limited to the filing of that
the form
216 or 219C.
Yeah.
I can't remember which number. And now it was just to acknowledge that he makes a schedule and he has to take some of the shifts, and so that he by default schedules himself in shifts, but only because you have to. And it's not an unheard of thing. It's pretty common. You just need to be, so that there's no conflict of interest, you state that and you give that to the board. That was the item that was on the agenda. The discussion that happened in the meeting was far in excess of that. It went all over the place and not directly around that. And they found that discussions of topics and deliberations of topics that were clearly not clearly outlined on the agenda was also a violation. So again, if they, to say that none of these have been fruitful, I guess, if you want to say it, or have been successful in saying that there's been a violation is erroneous and just plain wrong. And so I don't want to keep doing them, but you do want to try to have somebody educate themselves about the proper way to run a town government, and you've got to do it whether you want to or not. There are rules, and you've got to stay in with the rules, and otherwise it becomes chaos, and you get to do, once you do something outside of that, you tend to do more and more outside of that, and you don't care. And we've seen some of that behavior-wise, I think, over the last 18 months in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that shouldn't happen. It can't happen. And so they should be on this agenda. Oh, I'm not, because they came in this week. And so I know that there was more than enough time for that to be distributed to all the members, to be read, and to be put on this agenda so that they could talk about it or address it on Monday. So
Yep.
we'll see if it makes another agenda. I don't know if they're really not forced to do it. It was a request for the claimant that they acknowledge what happened, but I'll have to go back and reread the
Yeah.
details of what they exactly have to do. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot the Attorney General can do.
Yeah, and I think total, I was looking at the open meeting law database and, records that I have.
Well, it's public knowledge. You can go in and look at, there's a thing called determinations.
Right.
And if you look at determinations, what that is these are public documents. You don't have to pay money for the Freedom of Information Act to get information on this stuff. It's public. And so you go to the state and you go to determinations and then you look it up by the town and you can see what is either, I don't know if they have things that are ongoing, do they?
Yes,
They have things that
there
have been
are.
settled. I can't remember.
They have both. There's
have
two
both.
different locations on the open meeting law site. One will show you what's pending,
Okay.
and then the other one will show you the letters. That came back. The letters that were sent to Paul this week. You could read those in total
Right.
by going there. You could also request a copy from the town clerk
Right.
or brimfieldmatters@gmail.com,
Right.
and we'd send them to you.
Absolutely. It's a
I
public
received,
document.
I don't know if I received 2 or 3, but I got either, so I guess what I saw was either 4 out of 6 were successful or 5 out of 7.
Okay.
So either way, them saying, it's a waste of time and none of them are found. Well, over half of them, and the Attorney General really wants to not make the town,
Right.
guilty,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Right.
And
Yeah, they
it's-
want to avoid. Yeah, they want to avoid repercussions that are going to be,
Right.
on the
and
taxpayer's shoulder, kind of thing.
yeah, and it's one of those, the ones that have not come back, successful, have come back and said, it's not against the rules, but we strongly urge the town
Right.
to do this.
Right.
So
Yeah, it wasn't cut and dry. Like, oh, you don't. No, you're good. You don't have to do that. They're like, yeah, technically, by the letter of the law, you could do it the way, like this public access, and technically, by the letter of the law, you can do a revision. Technically, by the letter of the law, you can do some things, but they don't want you to do it. If it's foreseen, then it should be on the agenda the way it is, and that agenda shouldn't change for 48 hours before the meeting.
right.
They just want it to be as clear and transparent as possible. So anyway, so that's that, I think. So if they say otherwise, you can have them call me because it's wrong. So we'll see. Hopefully, don't make an agenda item out of it, but I don't know.
Start holding your breath now.
Right? Yeah, exactly right. Was there? I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
So
Oh, well, you
So
could talk
you
about the
kinda-
revisions, right? You want to talk about the revisions? I don't want to steer you off.
well, you already stared me off.
All right, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
jeez.
Right.
What I think should be added to this agenda wasn't necessarily what Paul was saying, but I do think that's correct as well. What I would say is, we have not heard a single word about warrant articles.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
We need to know when the closing date is.
Yeah, usually there's a lot of anxiety at these meetings because it's got to get done, it's got to get in. The printer's got 6 weeks to print it, and there are time delays, there are editing delays, there are discussions on open meeting if it's a bylaw. I mean, there are lots of things that have to happen.
Yeah.
And man, I see no mention of the warrant.
No.
As
Citizen petitions have come into town every year. There's one or two.
right.
And this year no citizen knows when that's due.
Right.
You know,
Right.
for all I know, that it's already passed.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. So I don't know what the dates are.
So that should absolutely be on here,
Right.
and it should have been on for the past 2
Right,
months.
because it's an item that should be updated each time. And the other thing that hasn't happened is each department usually comes in front of FinCom. Yes, I think that has happened, but they usually come in front of the select board to go over their budget that they've discussed with FinCom as well, so that the discussion at town meeting is a little bit more detailed.
The way it's supposed to work is, every department that comes
Response.
reports
Reports.
to the select board. If there's any material change in the budget from last year to this year, they should be in front of selectmen. Same thing with FinCom. If there's a material change in the budget, meaning Paul wants a 20% raise this year.
Right.
Well, now you've got to go in front of all the boards and say why you need 20%.
Exactly right.
But if you're going with whatever FinCom says should happen, you don't need to be at these meetings. FinCom will take a look at what was done and most likely just
Right.
rubber stamp it because
Right.
it passed last year and we're doing just fine this year.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anybody that's changing more than what FinCom is suggesting, and most of the time, we would see anybody who wanted to.
Yeah, just because they want to get the support, they want to get a thumbs up. They want to get it. They don't want anything to be a surprise. And quite honestly, if they've been in front of FinCom and FinCom doesn't have a problem with it, usually FinCom will kind of give the thumbs up, and that's fine. I mean, I think that kind of gives a green stamp.
Right.
But for the select board, it is just good to know what they're talking about when they're justifying at town meeting. If somebody says, put a hold on that, could you explain it? Well, the select board should have already heard the explanation.
Right.
You know what I mean? And nothing should be a big surprise. Not a big surprise anyways. And so, but I haven't seen, I think we talked to, I remember saying this, the only budget that I've even heard squeak about, the only department about a budget was the town clerk. And that was,
right.
She had some,
and she doesn't report.
And she doesn't report, right. So her line item has nothing to do with the select board. And so it's actually quite interesting to see that how little is getting done with the warrant. Like, this was a stressful time.
Oh, yeah.
Administrative, I'm sure Teresa's probably chewing bullets right now because she's like, there's just so much that has to get done to get all this stuff, to get ducks in a row. For the warrant is not an easy thing to get over with. But
right.
And then the flea market tickets and the permits and all, that's all got to stop flooding in.
Oh, yeah.
Not already.
Yeah, this is a very stressful
It's
time.
a hectic time for that office,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh boy, there was something else there. And this is a select board that has wanted to kind of curtail the power of finance committee.
Right.
And they want to, they micromanage everything.
Right.
So why they haven't even just said everybody needs to come in front of us,
Right.
I don't get. But, and this is the process that is supposed to happen, and with the assessor, or actually we'll just go back to the clerk. The clerk is tough because she doesn't have to have any public meetings for her department because she's the only one.
Right.
But with the assessor, the assessing budget should be in front of the board of assessors. They should vote on it, and then it should go to finance committee.
Right.
So there should be a couple of meetings every step of the way, and that helps curtail the large and crazy conversations on town meeting floor.
Yeah.
It's also something that the past couple of years, I'm kind of glad I'm not on the board anymore, so that if this happens again this year,
Yeah. Definitely.
But for this reason, I'm glad because I didn't feel like I could say this is improper.
Right.
But the past two town meetings, we changed salaries on town meeting floor.
Right.
Of like $10,000.
Yeah, it wasn't inconsequential.
Yeah.
It was large. Yeah.
And that's just the wrong way to do it. If for no other reason, you're singling out an employee, you're singling out Paul, as an exemplary employee. He should get a $10,000 raise.
Right.
See that? I've already cut it in
Right.
half.
I know. I noticed that.
Yeah. So
It was 20%, so it depends on what I started with.
that's true.
So
Yeah.
$10 could be pretty good.
Yeah.
So I am saying.
So, but if that happens, every other employee now, is off kilter from them.
Right.
So if you've got
It goes back to your benchmarks.
right,
It goes back to the benchmarks.
right,
You can't just say, all right, because there are 30 friends at the annual town meeting that want to vote for it, and it has all the support, and then the people that are relatively indifferent in the back say, well, if all those people want it, then it must be okay, and then they just raise it. That's not the way to run a budget. It's not
Right.
the way to do. It's not really fiduciary awareness, I guess, for the town, and I don't think that should happen at the town meeting.
right.
But
Me either.
but it did, and it probably will. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the treasurer collector, because that's kind of its own little thing that we have.
now it's just
that
treasurer.
should be an update too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's been posted. That like if they've gotten any feedback or whatever, how it's been posted, what the decision is to be, because that's another
They-
whole thing.
They had that special select board meeting on Tuesday.
Yep.
To
4:00.
at 4:00 to allow the assistant treasurer collector, now what they're referring to as the collector, to help pick a company that will come in and kind of act as a new treasurer
Gotcha.
until something can happen. Which again, it's great to do that. They did it. A company is going to be a lot more money than a treasurer, I would imagine.
Right.
And if that's the case, did they clear it with FinCom to see
Right.
what kind of budget they can have?
And if they did it in that meeting, if they did it, like made an agreement and said, this is what we're going to do, and realize that at 4:00 nobody's could be there, because people have to work. It should have been on this agenda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As an update.
an update.
They've got like
This
a
is
list of
what we
updates.
did.
This is what we just said. The list of updates is great. You just had a meeting a few days ago.
That could be very consequential to
Right.
the budget
That's
of this town.
extremely important. Put it on the agenda. Just put it on the agenda. So it would have been that simple, just to say, hey, this is what happened the other day. This is what we're going to do. We have, even if you say our hands are tied, we got to do something.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I get it, but we should know what it's costing and what it's doing to the town. We
Right.
should know, and we shouldn't have to ask for it like this. But I am asking for it. So please, maybe on a revision for this next meeting, you could put update for the treasurer collector office, whatever.
Yes.
Title it whatever you want.
Yep. So, going to revisions.
Oh yes.
Here's a pat on the back
Yeah.
with notice on the Zoning Board of Appeals agenda. They actually have revisions.
Nice.
They had revisions and they marked up on top that it was revised at this time, this day. And then down below, inside the agenda, it had in red letters what was actually what was updated.
All right. That's excellent. I mean,
awesome.
Again, it's so transparent, because you could say, okay, clearly that either got canceled for whatever reason. Maybe somebody couldn't show up. Maybe they didn't have all the data. New news came in, or it got added. And even if it got added, it's like, okay, now I know what was added, and there's no like what was there before. Just erasing it and putting it up just isn't. I don't think it's fruitful. I don't think it's actually helpful when you have
Right.
revisions and you don't know what was on there before, unless you downloaded and kept a copy of the first one. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so I thought that was really good, really good.
Yeah. So we do have some comments that citizen petitions and zoning articles need to have a public hearing. They have to get posted in the paper for 2 weeks in a row prior to the hearing. So
Okay, so you got to get on that.
legally,
Yeah, right.
we got to get on that. And planning has always done theirs. most often 2 weeks prior to the annual town meeting, except through COVID, they started doing it right before the town meeting,
Right.
which
Yeah.
just made more sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And as far as how the meeting went out without eScribe,
Yeah. Again, I don't know. So it shouldn't happen. The eScribe should be thought to be, well, the eScribe should be the exact agenda item, if you
Yeah.
ask me. It should, there's no excuse for it not to be the right one.
right? And I guess the last thing on going back to Zoning Board of Appeals, they had a very nice, clean agenda, just as is. And it was the same one that the select board uses. And that had been something that had been pretty much standardized, that every board used the same format,
Yeah.
which was nice, and it had the same, not metadata, but
Format,
and yeah,
like the pertinent information that was going to be on it should be
Right.
appropriate and accurate.
and now that seems to have fallen, and every board does their own.
Yeah, maybe that would be a good thing for maybe the town clerk could even give an outline. I mean, just
Yeah, again,
because
I-
everything gets posted through that office, correct?
The town clerk could do it, but it's also, just the select board.
Could do for
Most of
those
them.
that report to them.
Yeah,
Yeah, keep it consistent.
yeah.
It wouldn't be hard. All right, let's see what else. I
They
think
like to micromanage.
yeah,
Might as well give them something to micromanage that would be helpful.
agree. All right, so I think, let's see, did I have? Are we done with the pertinent
I think so.
thing? All right. A couple of announcements I want to reiterate again. One is the St. Patrick's Day celebration on March 24th, 11 to 1. Time for the wearing of the green and some great Irish comfort food. Then welcome back Tim Van Egmond with his Irish show Shamrocks and Leprechauns. The menu is kind of on there. I posted, we already mentioned this before, but I want to make sure everybody's aware of it. There's a $5 suggestion donation for this party, and they asked that people register by the 20th of this month. So please, the phone number's down there. I'll say it real quick: 413-245-7253. So if you want to go to the St. Patrick's Day celebration at the Senior Center, I'm assuming that's where it is. I don't think it says the location, but it's at the Senior Center. And so please contact Eva at that number, and I think that will be a fun time for all. We have just another announcement that we were asked to make, again on behalf of Eva, and I'm just going to read this. The ARPA utility assistance, so it's the American Rescue Plan Act utility assistance. We mentioned this last week, but I want to make sure everybody really heard it. If you receive any of the government assistance programs and reside in Brimfield, call the Senior Center at the 245-7253 number to apply for a one-time $500 check from the town of Brimfield to offset the high cost of utilities. The eligible programs that can partake of this assistance are the temporary assistance for needy families, SNAP programs with the supplemental nutrition assistance programs, free and reduced priced lunch and or school breakfast programs, Medicare Part D low income subsidies, supplemental security income SSI, Head Start or early Head Start programs, the WIC program, Section 8 vouchers, low income home energy assistance, also colloquially called the fuel assistance program, and Pell Grants. So if you partake of any of those programs, you are eligible for this assistance through the American Rescue Plan Act utility assistance for a one-time fee of a check for $500 to put towards your high cost of utilities.
And this once again was something that Eva has really spearheaded.
Yeah.
And I have to say it was I helped her come up with this. Just
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It
Yeah, a
really
little
hurt
bit.
my back, my arm.
Hurt your shoulder a little
yeah. But yeah, and I think it is a great program. It's it's ARPA funds from the town, and your eligibility is from any of those programs. So she's not checking. The town isn't going to be checking your finances.
Right.
Except to say if you've been on any of these, if you are currently on any of these programs, you qualify.
Right.
And it is something the select board approved $20,000 for the use, and it's going fast.
Right.
Hopefully, that's another revision. I think that Eva's trying is to get on to ask for more funds.
Right.
To see if more funds could be available, because
Yeah. I mean, $500 really doesn't go a long way. I mean, if you fill up your oil tank and you get a decent sized oil tank, it doesn't.
It's gone.
It doesn't fill it.
Right.
It didn't fill it this year. So, yeah, we Eva just did a great job with that. And please don't be shy if you need it. Just reach out. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. The folks at the senior center are very good at having the private meetings,
Right.
close the door, everything is confidential.
Yep.
And yeah, it's all very safe and a great program.
Yeah, it really is.
Both this as well as the senior center, just in general and all that they do.
All right, 100%. So I think we are probably done at this point, don't you think? I think we are. So, all right.
So another question just came in and
okay.
said, did you say Pell Grant?
I did. It was on the list.
It is. And that's an interesting one.
Yeah, because I didn't understand that one when I read it, because I assumed Pell Grants, I've always associated Pell Grants with educational loans, to be honest.
Right.
And I may be missing a fuel assistance Pell Grant kind of program. I don't know what that is.
I think it is college, and I'm not sure if, I don't know enough about the Pell Grant.
I would ask Eva.
Yeah, so give her a call. And the other thing that was that I've found is that phone number. Can you get that phone number up again?
Yeah.
The phone number that was up, that's important to call. There is, if you call the town hall number, the 245-4100, there is an extension for the senior center.
Gotcha.
But if you push that, you're going to be listening to music for the rest of the day, because it doesn't actually connect to the senior center, and they never fixed it.
Okay.
So
the number is, just to reiterate, 413-245-7253. That's 7253.
yeah,
So hopefully she'll be able to kind of clarify that for us. Yeah. All right. So I think we're done.
yeah.
All right. Excellent. Well,
Anybody have any questions out there or any comments?
we'll give a second
Yeah.
and see if somebody.
And while we're just filling air, if everybody wants to subscribe or
Yep. I don't know where it is on the stream,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's down at the bottom here somewhere. Subscribe and tell your friends.
do a thumbs up.
Yep.
If you like our program.
Yep. And send something our way if you want us to mention it on air. If it's a community event, just give us a holler.
Right.
Just at Brimfield. Brimfieldmatters@gmail.com will probably be the easiest way to do it. And then we'll go through and see what we can get it on. Hopefully it's something that we can put on the air, and we'll get it on there. So we really want to maintain that positive community interaction for sure.
Yes. Yeah, and if you have any suggestions for other episode,
Yeah.
Not town related stuff, if there's a company that you'd like us to highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you
something.
own a company and you want to be highlighted, let us know. I mean, we could always do a pre-recorded little blurb and put it into the into this broadcast. So I think we can. I know I can. I know I can.
I know of a farm.
We have the technology. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, very good. Then I guess.
Yeah.
We'll say.
We'll say
good night, and I think I'm gonna go with this one here and go back with that. I don't know if it went through or not, to be honest. And we'll put on this one, and We'll see you all later next week, next Thursday, remember.
Next Thursday.